everybody. This is Nina Crowley. I'm Sika's Professional Affiliations and Education Manager, and I'm here with Colleen Cannon today to talk about her most recent talk at the Weight Management Dietetic Practice Group, the virtual symposium for dietitians that just happened a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of buzz about her talk, and she and I have been connected for a few years now, so I thought we could get her on here to share some of what you talked about and share some of that and give us some exciting things to work on in our own practices. So thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm a psychologist and you're a psychologist. So we've got fusion and synergy and all those wonderful things. I'm both loving the focus of health psychology.
So I was definitely attracted to your talk at the meeting. I think it was a really great something for dietitians. So as a dietitian, I was in practice with bariatric patients for a while before maybe a year before I realized that I needed some extra training in behavior change and psychology. So, I always make that joke that I went back for a PhD in health psychology to be a better dietitian, but I think it was a good move. But I think you're sharing, what you've learned in your practice. If you want to give us a little bit of history of that and how you're, helping folks like dietitians and other healthcare practitioners be better at helping their patients with change.
Thank you. I would love to. And as I said, you'll need to cut me off because I could talk about this all day. So I trained as a clinical psychologist, but very quickly fell in love with health psychology. So working with folks with disordered eating, with pain, managing chronic conditions, cardiac health. And the most fun, fascinating aspect of that job from a collegial point of view was recognizing that we have way more in common. We're way more similar than we are different. That while each of our different professions on these interdisciplinary teams, of course, had areas of their specific specialty, right? I don't know what complex carbohydrates are and macronutrients. I just get all sweaty if a periodic table appears. But in terms of talking to our clients about changing their behaviors and talking to our clients about coping with all of this information coming this way and all of the changes that they might be going through in their lives, and communicating with the healthcare team and setting goals and managing setbacks and sometimes mental health struggles on top of that, we were having very similar conversations with our clients, aside from the specific content of a medication or, as I said, nutritional components or specific mental health interventions that I would do. And so actually, many of you know I've been working with Wendy Shaw, who's a dietitian for 2 decades, and we met around the lunchroom table where we were working at a diabetes, hypertension, and cholesterol center. And there was a table where the staff had lunch. And in chatting about our mornings or our afternoons, seeing clients, we realized we were having very, very similar conversations with them. And so, really the rest is history. Since then, I've gone on to work. I worked in 2 cardiac clinics for 16 years. Private practice. And what keeps coming across is that there's so much more overlap between the things that people need to talk about and learn and try and incorporate into their lives than the silos the healthcare system tends to present them as.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, and never the two shall meet. And that's not the client's experience. The client's experience is when their dietitian is trying to help them set goals and their psychologist is trying to talk to them about work stress. Of course, and then maybe an exercise physiologist is trying to talk to them about their heart rate and their activity level. For the client, those all blend together. That's all a matter of how they're going to figure out how to make changes in their lives that they can stick with that help their health improve versus how they go through the experience of meeting with us where it's all, we all have our different pamphlets and we all have our different links that we send them, and it can be completely overwhelming for a client. So I'm all for, I think many of us have experienced that, right? If you have a medical issue and you go to get a check, the next thing you know, you're leaving with 25 pieces of advice and trying to figure out what's supposed to come first, even while you're reading the 12-page, booklet on the medication that you're supposed to be taking. And so teaching colleagues to talk to their clients about their lives, their mindset, their context, their perspective, their goals, and then filtering in through that the specific health or medical related recommendation is what I have spent 2 decades doing and still love doing it very, very much. That's why I say you're going to have to cut me off because I could talk
Oh,
about
well,
this
I love that too,
today.
though, just because I think that was what I took from your session was just really practical tools with,
Yep.
a solid, story behind why it was important, really
Mhm.
take home applications. Here's exactly
Good.
what to say. Because I know, when I teach motivational interviewing, people always ask afterwards, well, exactly how do I do that? What are the starters? How can I start? And like, well, you just know because you've been doing this.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think you gave some really good sort of lead in questions how to do that. So I think that was one of my, kind of take homes from your talk. But I know also some things that, kind of the big three were sort of talking about mindset, talking about self-efficacy, and then self-regulation. And I think, for anybody who was listening in whatever area of sort of weight management or, even diabetes care, we all probably took home some really practical things and how to apply that to our work. And even my work now without direct patient care and body composition is trying to figure out, how does that fit in with people's pathways with how they're managing their care. And I found a lot of parallels. So that was really neat.
Oh, I'm really, really glad to hear that. I'm a pragmatist, to say the least. The business that I have with Wendy Shaw, the dietitian, is craving change, and it's all how to pragmatic, practical, a variety of tools so that you can try different approaches with different people and not only see what your different clients respond to differently, but of all the techniques and tools that we recommend, which ones fit best for you. We've all tried to kind of repeat the training that we just got at a weekend workshop and
Yes.
stumbled over it because that wording doesn't feel right or those examples don't feel right. So having a variety of different metaphors and um, key questions that help generate that sense of curiosity for your client and for ourselves is part of our goal rather than trying to kind of parrot this training that you just took, which trust me, I have tried to do myself. So when you
Totally.
say mindset, the perspective that I teach health psychology from is what many people have already heard of. So the cognitive behavioral approach. Uh, the acronym is CBT because traditionally it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't teach other people how to do therapy. So I call it the cognitive behavioral techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And the cognitive behavioral approach, cognitive behavior. See, I'm thinking so much ahead of my mouth. Cognitive behavioral techniques have actually been recommended in clinical practice guidelines in disciplines other than psychology for years. So occupational therapy, nursing, nutrition. So looking at cognitive restructuring, looking at behavioral changes people can make. But I find that reminding people of the theory underlying all of that is almost more helpful than the techniques themselves
Mm.
because the theory underlying it is really straightforward and it gets people thinking about their thinking. Then all the other techniques sort of make that fancier. You don't need to be fancy. So I
How do
think
you
of
phrase
three.
that with them? I think you had a good way
Yeah.
of doing that.
Yep. I pull out a whiteboard or I draw circles with my finger or I draw it on a napkin or a piece of paper that's nearby to think about three overlapping circles that doesn't matter which circles where, but one circle being behavior. And think of that's usually what our clients are struggling, right? I had a really bad week. I don't like what I did this week. I'm really frustrated. I wanted to cancel my appointment because I didn't want to have to tell you this thing that I did. So that's the behavior. And what we know is that people really focus on their behavior, especially when they're disappointed in it, and they often become their own worst critic. So in the area of weight loss and weight management, people will say, I have no willpower. I'm lazy. My motivation's really low. Why can't I get it together? Why can't I be, quote, good?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not actually helpful. And it's not actually how we behave. What we know about how we behave and the decisions we make, including what we eat, is strongly driven by how we think, which is the other circle. And then the third circle is how we feel. And so helping people be more aware of those visible contributions to how they behave can open up a whole new line of inquiry for them. I call it the gold mine, where they're like, oh, I thought I was just stupid for eating ice cream
Mm-hmm.
every night. It never occurred to me that my work stress was contributing to that, or my worry about if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight, or my insomnia is going to kick in. I guess that did affect my eating. And so someone might show up at your office putting themselves down, being highly self-critical, and you draw three circles and say, okay, let's go over a little bit more in detail. What is it that you did that you're feeling really bad about or you're frustrated by? And let's say it's midnight snacking. That's the behavior. And then asking them, can you walk me through a little bit about what you were thinking when you ate in a way that, and to be clear, there's nothing wrong with late night snacking until your client comes in and says it's really upsetting them. And then working on that for change is usually what the client wants to do.
That non-judgmental
So,
approach, I think, is, key to say here. That, I think that's another
thank
reason
you.
I'm attracted to your work, is it aligns
Thank you.
big time with how, hopefully most of the dietitians I know in weight management are practicing, but
Yes.
curiosity,
Yes.
non-judgmental, patient-centered, all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for making that crystal clear. The way I say it is, and I say this collegially and with clients, I don't care what anybody eats. I don't. I don't care what anybody looks like. Bodies. I have a background working in disordered eating. That someone's relationship with food is incredibly personal and incredibly private. And whatever they choose to talk to me about, I'm happy to talk to them about. And whatever's upsetting them when they're eating, is I want to help them feel less upset and make changes that help them feel better about themselves. I have no exterior agenda around what they should or shouldn't be doing. That's not for me to judge, and nor would I want anyone judging my behaviors. Oh my goodness. I know the hypocrisy would crush me. So no way. So I will also say sometimes people have a hard time distinguishing between what's a thought and what's an emotion. They're very abstract terms. Of course, they're invisible. And one of my little clues that I like to use is to say an emotion is one word, whereas thoughts are a chain of words. So emotion might be, oh, the sun came out in Vancouver. That does not happen a lot. Pardon the lighting. So an emotion might be excited.
Was that a thought?
Delighted. Yeah, I was. Yeah, yes. Yeah, sorry for the editorial, but it's been about 6 months since that has happened in March on the Pacific Northwest. So an emotion might be excited, happy, delighted, regretful, jealous, frustrated, disappointed, angry. Thoughts would be, oh, that was really dumb of me to interrupt what I was saying. Oh no, now everybody thinks I'm stupid because I didn't speak clearly. Oh no, I've ruined my first impression. And you can see how those emotions and those thoughts would play off each other very, very nicely. And they strongly contribute then to behavior. So if somebody comes into your office and they're frustrated or disappointed or shameful, they usually want to talk about, again, their character. Why was I lazy? Why was I stupid? And their eating has nothing to do with their character. You could draw three circles and say, okay, let's go back to that incident. That's what you saw. That's what you did. What do you think you were thinking and feeling? And suddenly there's this gold mine where they're saying, yeah, I have been kind of depressed lately. And, I've been really lonely post-pandemic. And I felt better when I've had the ice cream. But then the next morning, I never even thought of it that way. You're helping them be more self-aware about the thoughts and the feelings underlying their behavior. And quite frankly, that's 75% of my job, is increasing that personal awareness. And the one I love is it usually also decreases the shame and the guilt. So those are huge.
That's huge.
And it's just a conversation.
So then how do you jump into talking to them about self-efficacy and self-regulation, just so that we can tie up that triad before we end?
Yes.
This could be an all-day thing, I think, between us. So
I will work very hard to focus on something I'm so excited about. So self-efficacy is the largest predictor in tons of studies of sustained behavior change. It's a key component in psychology and in health psychology. Self-efficacy is people's confidence that they can do a skill, and their confidence that they can still do a skill when the situation is challenging. And so feeling more capable, feeling confident, feeling more self-assured, that's self-efficacy. And what I love about self-efficacy is what a lot of us are already doing in our practice, keep doing. So encouragement, education, reinforcement. The mindset for building self-efficacy is, now it's the shrug emoji, as kids would say, and that whatever, give it a shot. Try to use the mindset of experimenting.
I was just going to say that was a big one for me.
Exactly. Just experimenting versus discouragement is so counterproductive. With building self-efficacy, there's no room for discouragement, because you tried swimming, you hate swimming. You tried biking? Ugh, you hated biking. But wow, the walk to the pool was amazing. Maybe I could do more walking. That's what self-efficacy is meant to do. The other component to help build it is vicarious learning. So what we're already doing, and in the good ways that social media and the internet can be used, encouraging people to, I used to say magazines, encouraging people to find people that they feel connected to, they feel a kinship with, doing things that they want to try helps us try. In other words, representation matters.
Mm.
If you see people walking that are people who you can relate to for on 100 different components, it's all also going to be very individual, you're more likely to try walking. The same with any other food or eating or behavioral health change you try to make. So
Okay.
encouraging people to look essentially for role models and giving things a shot and learning from that experience, that's building self-efficacy.
I like that.
Thanks. I like it too. It's a whole different mindset to this, please, this has to work. I've tried everything else. This has to
Mm-hmm.
work. If it doesn't work, I'm out of options. That's not helpful or
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah. I like the accurate piece too, because hope is big, but also, pointing out the fallacies in our thinking.
We you are speaking my language.
Okay. And then
Well,
let's kind of
perfectionism, all or nothing thinking. Yeah.
end with this sort of self-regulation component, because I think that's one that people probably haven't heard as much about
Yes.
or have thoughts about
Self-regulation.
it that it might be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I want to be clear, it's self-regulation, not self-deprivation or
Yes.
self-deprecation. So it is not about bioengineering your body. It is not about becoming a machine. It is not about depriving yourself. Self-regulation from a psychological perspective is about learning to manage your distress. So when things feel uncomfortable. So have made a decision around food or eating, and now you're feeling upset about it. Start by focusing on the fact that you're upset and learning to self-soothe and learning to be kind to yourself and learning to wait for that adrenaline rush of shame and distress to come down a little bit. Is step A. Step B is catching and changing unhelpful, inaccurate, unfair thinking patterns. So the classic might be you had birthday cake at the staff meeting on Friday. You're super upset about that decision because it's not what you intended. And now you're thinking, well, I've blown it. I might as well just go for it all weekend and start again on Monday because these 3 days are a write-off now. Well, catching that as perfectionism and all or nothing thinking and not
Mm-hmm.
accurate, and altering that when you're a little less upset with yourself is great. In psychology, that's heavy lifting. It's great. And then the third piece that I really like, and there's an author named Foreman, Forman, who taught me this in two of his articles that I hadn't thought of, was learning. Part of self-regulation is learning to accept a less pleasurable state.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives a great example of you bring an apple for your snack in the afternoon at lunch at work. Your apple's not your lunch. Your apple's your snack. And you're like, okay, it's an apple. That's what I'm going to eat on my snack. It's fine. But then at break time, you go to wash your hands to eat your apple, and somebody's brought in birthday cake. And again, to be clear, you're welcome to eat the birthday cake. I have no issues, of course, with anybody having the birthday cake. But if you eat the birthday cake and you feel really bad about it and you want to do that less often, this technique says, that apple looked pretty good until you knew there was birthday cake in the staff room. Could you refocus on what's important to you, your values, why you want to make these change, what you're investing? And could you accept that you're going to have the less pleasurable apple than the cake because the apple is less pleasurable, but it's not suffering. It's not deprivation. It's just you didn't know that there was this gorgeous carrot cake in the staff room at the time. And so managing the distress and saying, you know what, I'm actually going to go for that great brunch on Sunday. Why don't I focus on that, eat my apple? It won't be as good as the cake, but I'm going to have a great time at brunch on Sunday. So it's a more moderate, a more fair, a more accurate, a more self-compassionate, and a realistic perspective to take.
It's good to hear you sort of describe that through, because I think some people get that wrong, and that can be construed as a real deprivation, kind of a can't have, don't have, won't, all those shamey kind of words and should and shouldn't. So
I can't argue. I think honestly that's one of the biggest foes in my job is fighting that mindset. There's nothing about that mindset that is helpful.
yeah,
Period.
the
I'll die on that hill.
anti-perfectionism way is totally, I think, what a lot of us need.
Oh, and that harshness. I mean, even in Craving Change, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of evaluation forms where people say the number one most effective technique they learn from the program is an 80-20 mindset.
Mm.
And which isn't a complex concept, right?
Right.
But that idea of, most of the time, aim for making choices that align with your goals and what you're investing in and help you feel good about yourself. That's how you feel good about yourself. And then 20% accept that there's going to be a beautiful birthday cake in the lunchroom and all these other spontaneous, delightful things around food and eating that you're welcome to do. There's no pursuit of 100% that will benefit you. When I used to give presentations on perfectionism, I would spell it with a K, just so we would all sit there twitching as exposure therapy to get used to guess what? If you hired me because you think I'm perfect, I have bad news for you because I'm not, and I'm going to model imperfection. And pardon me, not that having the cake isn't perfect.
Is big. That's huge.
I'm not an Olympic athlete competing for a 100th of a second for a gold medal. That level of vigilance and self-control will in no way benefit me.
Yeah. Well, to just kind of tie up for me, I think one of the things I heard in the podcast I listened to this morning was actually a quote about sort of there's happy, but there's not happier than. So like once you're at the state of happy, like that's it. You don't need to keep seeking something bigger or more. And, that could be what I used to call my see you tomorrow apple, which was
I love that.
I'd love to abandon that for something better. But I think, the way that you phrase that is such an interesting way.
I hope that's helpful. I could quote an Instagram quote that I love right now, but I will resist the urge. But I do feel very strongly about that. There's no evidence that shame and self-loathing is helpful for sustained behavior change. The irony and the cruelty that approach is actually counterproductive makes me really angry and upset.
Yeah. So many thoughts about how that can apply to obesity and weight and all of that. So I think this was a really good sort of teaser for me to kind of think on some of these topics and maybe write about them and have some future conversations with you and others. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap us up and I'll make sure that we link to some of your stuff so that people can follow your work and get more.
Thank you.
This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to some of the tools you have available for helping folks with changing their behavior.
Well, thank you right back. The education and advocacy that you do is exemplary, and it's truly a pleasure to have met you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I know we'll be in touch and I'll see you at the next meeting, hopefully in person this time.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Okay, take care.
Thank you.